Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this Wednesday night. We just talked about, we kind of did a recap the MLB trade deadline. Now I want to focus on two guys that they didn't trade. I think the two biggest trade chips on this or in this organization were obvious. Vaughn Grissom, we talked about it time and time again. So many articles said this is the most likely guy to be traded. We said that's the one trade chip we're willing to give away with because, hey, do we see a spot on the future for him on this team? Not that he's not talented, not that he's not already a major league level talent, because he is. He's one of the best AAA players for his age group, which is 22 years old. He has value, but the Braves opted not to deal him. So what does that mean for his future? And I think it means a lot. I think it shows a lot in what the Braves, the faith that they have in him, maybe developing as a shortstop. Maybe they do see him developing. I mean, we don't know how long this Orlando Arcia thing is going to go. Maybe it does go for all 3 seasons and he's the starting shortstop in Atlanta. Maybe he starts to struggle at the end of this year and it's an open competition at spring training. We don't know. But I think obviously there's defensive questions there. From what I saw this year, I didn't think he could even blossom into it, but maybe this is a sign. Listen, the Braves, one thing I will always say about Alex Anthopoulos and this organization, and they've done it right time and time again, is they are so good at recognizing the value in their young talent and who needs to stay and who needs to go. And Vaughn Grissom obviously fits in from an offensive profile perspective. He obviously fits in from a clubhouse perspective. It's really that third aspect of his game, which is defense, because he's going to have to play shortstop if he's going to want to play on this team for the foreseeable future. And I do think not trading him, maybe they think, hey, it just wasn't right. We'll do it at the offseason. That's definitely on the table. But I do think there's a sign, them not dealing him, them not just giving up on him for nothing or for a rental, which they probably could have done, is a sign that they believe that he could eventually be a piece of this organization for years to come.
I absolutely believe teams were calling about Vaughn Grissom, or at least
we know
in response to.
We know there was interest. Like Giants were interested.
In response to maybe Alex Anthopoulos' calls. He said, yeah, you can have this guy for Vaughn Grissom. And I fully believe AA balked at any idea other than, a frontline starter or somebody with years of control. Because the value has to be there for not just for this Braves organization, for them to make this kind of deal. But I did have a thought experiment with the future of Vaughn Grissom. He is still playing shortstop in Gwinnett. That's where the Braves obviously see his future being. But why not experiment elsewhere? I mean, and the only reason I say this is because of the Braves roster construction. They hit bombs. Everybody in the lineup can hit bombs. If there's one team in the league that can have, say, a left fielder, not have good power numbers, it's the Braves, because they have power everywhere else. So why not? Or, obviously keeping his trade value up would be keeping him at shortstop. So maybe they do want to eventually move him as a shortstop or a middle infielder. It's just a thought I had, but like the future is so murky for Vaughn Grissom right now because there's so many different possibilities for him. He could be moved this offseason for, I don't know, an outfielder with a lot of control, or I don't know, a starting pitcher, or a reliever with a ton of team control. There's just so many possibilities, and I can certainly guarantee the Braves aren't going to give him up for chopped liver. We just saw that this year. That you better have something to bring to the table if you want Vaughn Grissom.
Yeah, I just think Vaughn Grissom's such an underrated. I know he's not technically a prospect, which I think kind of like negates some of his value around the league and in circles. I don't think it negates the value from actual people that know the game.
Yeah, GMs they don't. Maybe us who talk about it.
Yeah. Like I think that like the average fan might think, oh, he's not even a prospect anymore. Well, he's 22 years old, and in AAA, he has the highest WRC plus of any 22-year-old in AAA. Like that's how good this guy is. And that's how good he is offensively. If he can ever figure it out defensively, I mean, you're looking, if he can just be an average defender at shortstop with his offensive profile, I mean, you're looking at one of the highest WAR players in baseball, because shortstops rack up WAR like crack. Just look at Nicky Lopez. I mean, he had 6 F4 and he had a 744 OPS. Vaughn Grissom could have a much higher OPS than that. in the major league level. So I just thought it was something interesting that it didn't really seem like, obviously we don't know what happened behind closed doors, but it didn't even really seem like he was on the table. They weren't going to trade him for a rental. It was going to have to be someone with control and something like that. And I think the same thing can be said for AJ Smith-Shawver, who I believe is one of the more valuable prospects in all of baseball that isn't talked about. I mean, I saw someone when Gilbert got traded for Verlander. I think Jake was talking about it. And he's like, I wouldn't take Gilbert over AJ Smith-Shawver. And I was like, you're on crack, dude. Like, you're legitimately on crack. Like, Gilbert, you go look at his AA stats. He's hitting 240 with a 700 OPS. He's also 5'9" and 185 pounds. That's not exactly the profile of a guy who's going to become a megastar in the MLB. We're talking about a 20-year-old that has already made and had some success at the major league level and dominated every other level that he's been at. I mean, this guy has the chance to be a frontline starter. He's just tipping the iceberg on his talent. I don't think AJ Smith-Shawver, unless it was in the conversation of a true ace like Dylan Cease, was even on the table in any deal. And I think he's one of those prospects that the Braves are pretty much like, nah, we're not dealing him. Like good riddance, almost like Spencer Strider was, or like Ronald Acuna. Like, I don't want to put him quite in that class, but I think he's getting to that point where it's like they view this guy's potential as that high. And listen, guys flame out all the time, but he's already shown that he can have success at such a young age with such little experience that I don't think AJ Smith-Shawver is going anywhere in any deal. I think he is a future piece of this rotation. The Braves are going to need to have future pieces. I mean, you talk about Charlie Morton. His retirement could be looming after this season. Max Fried, we don't know if the Braves are going to extend him. They are going to need young arms, and he's the closest thing to a major league rotation piece. He's by far, I mean, there's not even anything else like close. Like, I don't even consider Jared Schuster a legitimate option. He's by far the only piece. And I think he's almost, I don't want to say untradeable because always for the right deal, but it's going to have to take something special in return for AJ Smith-Shawver.
Yeah, I think there's a real key difference other than, a value of a starting pitcher. You really can't top it unless you're the best player in baseball. The difference between AJ Smith-Shawver and Vaughn Grissom is the future of their positions. The Braves have pretty much every position player locked up other than left field. And the starting rotation does have question marks, as you just alluded to. Max Fried is probably not going to get extended. That's not to say I don't want him. That's just to say, Braves MO probably just going to let him walk, and he's going to sign some mega contract. Bryce Elder, Kyle Wright, Spencer Strider. That's really the future of your rotation, and it features one, really top-end guy. Kyle Wright, showed flashes of that last year. He was that guy. But his future is really murky with that shoulder injury. AJ Smith-Shawver is the biggest bet, not the biggest bet, insurance, I guess I should say, for the Braves. They are absolutely not letting him go unless they get somebody in return to take his spot today, which would be a frontline starter, like you said. Yeah, his stuff is absolutely nasty. You got to hone the control like a lot of young pitchers do. Hell, he's been pitching like a year and a half or 2 years, something crazy like that. So, yeah, this guy's just scratching the surface. You can see how the Braves organization feels about him. The kid rocketed through the farm system and immediately made his major league debut. I mean, yes, injuries prompted that, and, you could still say, the only reason is because of injuries. But the Braves would have picked up some bum to just eat some innings had they not believed he was ready for the show. There's no doubt in my mind that they had belief in him that regardless of what happened at the major league level, it wasn't going to stunt his development.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think AJ Smith-Shawver is going anywhere. Coming up after the break, Desmond Ridder, how long is his leash going to be in 2023?